There is a moment that almost every woman over 60 has experienced. You walk past a mirror, maybe it's at a department store, maybe it's in your own bathroom, and for just a second you stop. You look at yourself and you think, when did this happen? Not because you feel old. You don't feel old at all. But somehow, the woman looking back at you feels a little smaller. A little less like the vibrant, confident woman you know yourself to be on the inside. That I spent nearly 3 years researching exactly why that happens. And what I discovered surprised me completely. It wasn't the wrinkles. It wasn't the silver in the hair. It wasn't even the passage of time itself. In almost every single case, it came down to one thing: the haircut. The wrong haircut doesn't just look dated. It pulls the face downward. It drains color from your skin. It flattens your features and makes you look tired even when you feel absolutely wonderful. But here is the beautiful truth I also discovered. The right haircut can reverse all of that. It can lift your face, brighten your eyes, restore elegance to your whole presence, and make you look genuinely, effortlessly, 10 years younger. Sometimes more. Today, I am sharing 7 of the most rejuvenating haircuts for women over 60. These aren't just trendy styles. They are cuts that work with the way hair and faces naturally change over the years. Cuts that make you look richer, more polished, and more radiant. If you stay with me until the end, I promise you will walk away with something that truly changes the way you see yourself in that mirror. Let's begin. The soft layered lob that lifts everything. There is something almost magical about a well-cut layered lob. And once you understand why it works, you will never look at your hair the same way again. A lob, which simply means a long bob, sits anywhere from just below the chin to about collarbone length. But when layers are added, soft, invisible, carefully blended layers, something extraordinary happens. The hair begins to move. It catches the light differently at every angle. It breathes. And that movement, that gentle flowing life in the hair, is one of the most powerful tools for making a woman look younger, lighter, and more radiant. Here is what most people do not realize. As we move through our 60s, our facial structure naturally changes in subtle ways. The cheeks soften. The jawline loses a little of its earlier sharpness. The skin along the neck becomes more delicate. A one-length, flat lob actually draws attention to all of these things in the wrong way. It creates a heavy, blunt curtain that pulls the eye downward and makes the face look heavier than it is. But when you add soft layers, and particularly when those layers are cut to start just around the cheekbone, the whole dynamic changes. The layers frame the upper face. They direct the eye upward, toward the eyes and the cheekbones, which are 2 of the most beautiful features a woman carries with her throughout her entire life. The gentle movement also creates an illusion of fullness and body, which is especially important because hair naturally becomes finer over time. What makes this cut feel rich and elegant rather than simply pretty is in the finishing. A soft layered lob looks completely different depending on how it is styled. Worn with a loose, slightly tousled wave. The kind that looks effortless but is actually created with a large barrel curling iron and finished with a light mist. It reads as sophisticated and expensive. Think of the kind of woman you see in the pages of a luxury travel magazine. Silver-haired, unhurried, absolutely magnetic. That is the feeling this haircut gives. For women with finer hair, the layered lob is genuinely transformative. The layers remove weight from the ends and redistribute it throughout the mid-lengths, which makes the hair appear significantly fuller and more voluminous. Stylists often use a technique called point cutting, snipping into the ends at an angle rather than cutting straight across, which softens the perimeter and adds that beautiful, natural-looking texture. The other reason this cut works so beautifully for women over 60 is its incredible versatility. On a day when you want to feel polished and put together, you blow it smooth with a round brush and let the layers fall into a soft face-framing curve. On a more relaxed day, you let it air dry with a little curl cream, and it settles into something romantic and carefree. Either way, it looks intentional. Either way, it looks expensive. If you have been wearing your hair one length for years, perhaps because someone once told you layers were too much work, or because you simply hadn't considered anything different, I gently encourage you to bring a photo of a soft layered lob to your next appointment. Ask your stylist for face-framing pieces that start at the cheekbone. Ask for invisible layers throughout the mid-length. The difference will genuinely take your breath away. This is not a haircut that shouts. It is a haircut that whispers, very quietly, that you know exactly who you are. The French bob with wispy curtain bangs. If there is one haircut that has taken the world of mature beauty by complete storm in the past 12 months, it is the French bob paired with soft, wispy curtain bangs. And the reason it is absolutely everywhere right now is simple: it works. It works beautifully, consistently, and for almost every face shape. The French bob sits just at or slightly above the jaw. It is shorter than a traditional lob and has a very specific quality to it. An airiness, a softness, a certain je ne sais quoi that feels simultaneously classic and completely fresh. When the ends are cut with a slight outward flip, or left to curl gently under the jaw, it frames the face like a portrait frame frames a painting. It directs every bit of attention toward the center of the face, and that is exactly where you want it. Now, curtain bangs. I know the word bangs makes many women over 60 hesitate. There is a long-held belief that bangs are for young women, or that they require too much styling, or that they will somehow look costume-like on a more mature face. I want to gently set that belief aside, because curtain bangs are an entirely different story. Curtain bangs are long, feathered, center-parted pieces that sweep softly to each side of the forehead. They do not sit bluntly across the brow like the bangs of decades past. Instead, they graze the forehead lightly and blend seamlessly into the rest of the hair. And what they do for a face over 60 is remarkable. They shorten the appearance of a longer forehead. They soften any lines across the brow. And they frame the eyes in a way that makes them appear larger, more open, and more youthful. The combination of the French bob and curtain bangs creates what stylists call a face illuminating effect. The bangs draw light and attention to the eyes. The bob's shape lifts the jawline. And the overall silhouette, that soft, rounded Parisian shape, gives the impression of structure and elegance without any harshness whatsoever. Silver and salt and pepper hair looks absolutely extraordinary in a French bob. The cut's natural movement showcases every beautiful dimension of gray and silver tones, which can sometimes look flat in longer, heavier styles. In a French bob, those tones catch the light and look genuinely luminous. Styling this cut is also far simpler than most women expect. A small round brush and a blow dryer are all you need to create the classic French flip. Or you can let it air dry and simply set the curtain bangs with a flat iron, 2 gentle sweeps to each side, and the whole look comes together in under 10 minutes. Women who have made this change describe the same experience almost every time. They walk out of the salon and strangers smile at them differently. Colleagues ask if they have done something new. They can't quite put their finger on what. Family members say they look rested, refreshed, younger. None of them can fully explain why. But you will know why. Because this haircut chose to celebrate your face, rather than hide it. The textured bichia that gives you effortless volume. Let me tell you about the haircut that stylists across the world are calling the most flattering shortcut of 2026 for women over 60. And it goes by an interesting name. The bichia. It is exactly what it sounds like. A beautiful blend between the bob and the pixie, and it takes the best qualities of both. The bichia typically falls somewhere between the ear and the jaw. It is short enough to feel fresh and modern, but long enough to allow for styling versatility and face-framing pieces. And the key element that makes it so extraordinarily rejuvenating is texture. A bichia is never flat. It is never stiff. It is intentionally, beautifully textured, full of movement, layers, and life. For women over 60, volume is one of the most transformative things a haircut can provide. Our hair naturally becomes finer over time, and that loss of density can make the hair look flat against the scalp, which in turn makes the face look heavier and more tired. The bichia addresses this head-on. Because the hair is cut shorter, it is no longer weighed down by its own length. The layers create lift at the crown and at the sides, and that lift changes the entire silhouette of the face. When the crown has volume, genuine natural-looking volume, the face appears more oval, more symmetrical, and more youthful. The eyes look more open. The cheekbones look more defined. It is not about trying to look like someone younger. It is about allowing the very best version of your own face to come forward, unobstructed. The textured bichia also works exceptionally well with silver and white hair, because the texture catches the light in a way that makes those beautiful silver tones look multidimensional and rich rather than flat. A little texturizing spray or a light styling wax. Work through the fingertips after blow drying. Gives the hair that perfectly undone, expensive-looking finish that photographs beautifully and lasts through a full day. Women who are hesitant about going shorter often worry that they will regret cutting their hair. I understand that feeling completely. Hair holds so much of our identity, and change can feel frightening. But here is something worth knowing. The bichia is one of the most forgiving shortcuts there is, precisely because of its in-between length. If you decide you prefer it a little longer, growing it out creates a beautiful layered bob. If you fall in love with it and want to go shorter, the transition to a fuller pixie is seamless. What so many women discover when they finally try a textured bichia is that they wish they had done it years sooner. There is a lightness, both literally and emotionally, that comes with it. A sense of freedom. A feeling that you are no longer hiding behind your hair, but that your hair is finally working for you. Celebrating your face, your confidence, and your extraordinary life. This is the cut that makes people stop you and say, "There is something different about you today. You look absolutely wonderful." The elegant pixie with a soft tapered nape. There is a certain kind of courage that comes with choosing a pixie cut. And there is also, it turns out, a certain kind of freedom. A freedom that thousands of women over 60 describe as one of the most liberating decisions they have ever made about their appearance. The pixie cut for a woman over 60 is not the severe, close-cropped cut that many people picture. The version that works most beautifully for mature women is what stylists call a soft pixie with a tapered nape, and every word in that description matters. Soft means the top has length, texture, and movement. The hair at the crown can be an inch or two long, styled forward or to the side, creating a beautiful, flowing shape that feels anything but harsh. Tapered nape means the back is gradually shorter, following the natural curve of the head, which creates an incredibly refined, elegant line at the back of the neck. What this cut does for the face is extraordinary. Because there is no hair falling past the jaw, the neck is elongated. The jawline becomes more visible. The whole posture of a woman in a soft pixie looks taller, more refined, more commanding. It is the haircut of women who have decided, fully and completely, that they are enough exactly as they are. For women with fine or thinning hair, the soft pixie is genuinely a gift. Shorter hair is simply not heavy enough to lie flat. It has no choice but to stand up, to have body, to look full. And when a skilled stylist cuts the top with subtle layers and uses point cutting on the crown, the result is hair that looks thick, healthy, and abundant even if its natural density has decreased. The face framing pieces at the temples and sides of a soft pixie also do beautiful work. Left slightly longer and styled to sweep gently across the forehead or around the cheekbones. These pieces soften the silhouette of the whole cut and ensure it never looks severe or masculine. Instead, it looks distinctly feminine, refined in the way that only true simplicity can be. Maintenance is one of the reasons women who wear pixie cuts tend to keep them for years. A quick blow dry with a small round brush, a little volumizing mousse, and a touch of light hold spray, and you are done. What used to take 45 minutes now takes 12. That time over the course of a year adds up to hours and hours returned to you. Hours for the things that truly matter. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about the soft pixie is what it reveals. When the hair is shorter, the face becomes the entire story. And for a woman over 60 who has lived a full, layered, extraordinary life, whose face holds kindness and wisdom and quiet strength, that is not something to be hidden. That is something to be celebrated, gently and completely, every single day. The modern shag with invisible layers. If there is one haircut that captures the spirit of 2020's IXS beauty movement for women over 60, the movement toward individuality, texture, and joyful self-expression, it is the modern shag. And before you picture the shag cuts of decades past, let me paint you an entirely different picture. The modern shag for mature women is soft, deliberate, and deeply flattering. It typically falls to the collarbone or shoulder, and it is built entirely on layers. Layers at the crown for lift, layers at the mid-length for movement, and feathered layers around the face that create a beautifully soft, romantic frame. The defining characteristic of this version of the shag is what is known as invisible layering, a technique where the layers are blended so seamlessly that the hair looks naturally full and dimensional, with no visible stacking or abrupt shifts in length. What this means for the finished look is that the hair moves as one unified flowing piece, but with extraordinary life and body throughout. Run your hand through it, and it falls back into place beautifully. Catch it in the wind, and it moves like something from a film. Effortless, graceful, completely alive. The modern shag is particularly powerful for women over 60, because it addresses the two most common hair concerns in this stage of life simultaneously. First, it adds volume and body where hair has become fine or flat. Second, it frames the face in a way that genuinely lifts the features. The face-framing layers of a shag, cut to fall around the cheekbones and jaw, create a natural focus on the eyes and upper face, drawing attention upward and giving the face a lifted, bright, refreshed appearance. Curtain bangs pair beautifully with the modern shag, though they are entirely optional. For women who prefer to keep the forehead clear, the shag's longer face-framing pieces do much of the same work. The overall silhouette is oval-shaped and soft, which is universally flattering regardless of face shape. Silver, white, and salt and pepper hair genuinely thrives in a modern shag. The texture and movement of the cut showcase the dimensional beauty of natural gray in a way that straight, one-length styles simply cannot. Many women find that when they transition to their natural silver and pair it with a modern shag, they receive more compliments on their hair than they ever did with color, because the combination looks rich, intentional, and quietly luxurious. Styling can be as simple or as elaborate as you choose. On its own, the modern shag air dries beautifully with a little diffuser work and a curl-defining cream. For a more polished finish, a large barrel wand creates those soft, loose waves that settle between the layers and give the whole style that magazine-worthy, effortlessly expensive look. The women who wear the modern shag seem to share something in common beyond their haircut. They carry themselves with a particular ease. They do not seem to be trying. They simply are vibrant, interesting, utterly themselves. That is the quiet power of the right haircut. It does not change who you are. It simply lets who you are show up, fully and beautifully, for everyone to see. The sculpted jaw-length bob with face-framing layers. There is a reason the bob has never truly gone out of style. It is one of those rare haircuts that seems to understand the face, to read its proportions, work with its contours, and make everything just a little more beautiful. And in its current form, sculpted to the jaw with deliberate face-framing layers, it is arguably at its most flattering ever for women over 60. What makes this particular version of the bob different from the blunt, one-length bobs of previous decades is that it moves. The jaw-length sculpted bob is cut so that the longest pieces curve gently inward, following the natural line of the jaw and cheekbone. This inward curve, sometimes called a C-shaped cut, creates a beautifully sculpted silhouette that wraps around the face like a gentle frame. The effect is that the face looks more defined, more structured, and simultaneously softer. Face-framing layers are added throughout the front sections, starting at the cheekbone and blending down. These layers are the secret weapon of this cut. They do something almost architectural. They redirect the eye inward and upward, away from the lower face and neck, and toward the cheekbones and eyes. For women who feel self-conscious about changes in their neck or jawline, this redirection is genuinely powerful. Not because it hides anything, but because it makes the most beautiful features the most visible ones. The jaw length of this bob is also particularly significant for women over 60. Many women in their 50s wear their bobs chin length, which is a classic and beautiful choice. But dropping the length slightly, so that the longest layer just grazes or rests on the jaw, creates a subtle but important change. It softens the lower face, adds a gentle framing quality, and makes the overall silhouette more oval and balanced. It is a small adjustment with a remarkably large impact. This cut works beautifully with both straight styling and waves. Blown straight with a round brush, it looks polished, architectural, and expensive. The kind of cut you see on women who run board meetings and arrive to events looking completely unrattled. Styled with loose waves and a slight flip at the ends, it softens into something romantic and approachable, like a very chic French woman on a Sunday afternoon in Paris. For women with naturally straight hair, the sculpted bob is particularly easy to maintain. For women with natural wave or curl, the cut works with that texture beautifully. The layers allow the natural pattern of the hair to express itself without becoming overwhelming. Either way, the result is polished, effortless, and quietly stunning. The women who wear this cut will tend to share one quality, a sense of quiet confidence. They walk into a room and people notice them, though they could not always explain why. It is the bob. It is the way it frames the face with such precision and care. It is the way it says, without a single word, that this woman knows her own worth. And she always has. The collarbone lob with balayage dimension. We close our list with perhaps the most universally flattering haircut of this entire year. A style that hair experts have been calling the definitive age-defying cut of 2026. The collarbone lob. And when paired with the right color technique, it becomes something truly extraordinary. The collarbone lob sits exactly where its name suggests, at the collarbone, or just slightly above it. This length is remarkable because it occupies a very specific sweet spot that works beautifully for almost every woman over 60. It is long enough to feel feminine and romantic. It is short enough to have body, movement, and shape. And at collarbone length, the hair naturally frames both the face and the neck in décolletage, which creates an overall impression of elegance and grace that shorter cuts, as beautiful as they are, sometimes cannot achieve. What gives this lob its rejuvenating power is layers. Not chunky, obvious layers, but the kind of soft, seamlessly blended layers that move as one with the rest of the hair. When these layers are added to a collarbone lob, the hair lifts at the crown, flows through the mid-length, and tapers gently at the ends into a wispy, feathered finish. The result looks effortlessly voluminous, like the hair is simply naturally this full and beautiful. Now the color. This is where things become genuinely transformative. A technique called balayage, where color is painted onto the hair freehand, creating soft sun-kissed transitions, adds a dimension to silver and white hair that is almost impossible to describe without seeing it. Rather than a flat, uniform shade, the hair appears to have multiple tones of light within it. Pale golds, soft champagnes, cool platinums, and warm honeys blend together so naturally that the hair seems to catch and hold light from within. This dimensional quality is one of the most powerful anti-aging tools in hair. Flat, one-tone hair, whether fully gray or fully colored, can look dull against the skin. But hair with dimension and movement reflects light actively, and that reflected light brightens the skin around it, softens shadows, and gives the face an overall luminosity that genuinely takes years off. Root smudging, a technique where the colorist softly blends the natural root color into the balayage, ensures that this style grows out beautifully with no harsh lines of demarcation. For women who do not want to visit the salon every 6 weeks, this is a true gift. The style simply evolves gracefully over time, staying beautiful at every stage. The collarbone lob with balayage dimension is not a haircut that belongs to any particular age. It belongs to women who understand that beauty is not about chasing youth. It is about embracing the richness of who you have become. It is about choosing color and cut and style not to look 20 again, but to look like the most luminous, confident, and fully realized version of yourself at 60, 70, and beyond. And that version of yourself? She is absolutely breathtaking. And there you have it, 7 haircuts that can genuinely, beautifully, and quite effortlessly take years off your appearance and add something even more important than youth: radiance, confidence, that quiet, unshakable elegance that comes from feeling completely at home in your own skin. I want to leave you with one thought before you go. None of these haircuts are about looking younger for the sake of youth. They are about looking like yourself, the fullest, most vibrant, most luminous version of the woman you are right now. In this chapter of your life, the right haircut doesn't pretend. It doesn't hide. It simply brings you forward. Your eyes, your smile, your presence, and says, here she is. And everyone in the room turns to look. You deserve a haircut that does that for you. You deserve to walk past that mirror and feel something lift inside your chest. Not because you look 25 again, but because the woman looking back at you is exactly, perfectly, beautifully you. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path.